Sunday will be a quarterback battle between the Cowboys, Dak Prescott, and the Bills, Josh Allen. But there are many more matchups in this game that I am excited to get into. So let's do exactly that. Here we go. What is up, everyone, and welcome into A to Z Sports Dallas Prime Time. I am your host, Mauricio Rodriguez, streaming with you live every Sunday through Thursday night at 8 p.m. Central here on Dallas On Demand Sports Talk Network. With a lot more content coming your way, make sure that you check out atozsports.com. And as always, do me a favor and hit the like button for me as you join this show, especially if you enjoy it. But welcome everyone on this Thursday night. It is a great night to talk some Cowboys football. And listen, Thursday night football, not much of a distraction this time around as Easton Stick and the Chargers battle it out with Aiden O'Connell and the Raiders, right? So excited about this one, man. Excited about this game coming up for the Cowboys. It's the Bills. It's Buffalo. The Cowboys are traveling there. It is a perfect opportunity to be battle tested. And maybe we do throw that term around a lot when it comes to the NFL, but it is true, man. They might have a 7-6 record, might not look like much, but the Bills have one of the best quarterbacks in the league who is playing like such, despite the whole narrative about the interceptions. Not only that, but the Bills are definitely playing better as of late. Took down the Kansas City Chiefs, whether or not it happened on a controversial play right at the end, is worthy of a discussion, but they still were in the position to do that in Arrowhead, which should not be overlooked. And the Cowboys themselves are on a roll, just beat the former number one seed in the NFC by 20 points. And just a great opportunity for some great football, right? I'm going to say this, and I'm not trying to take the easy way out 2 minutes into the show, but it's one of those games where I do think if it ends up being like an all-out battle that ends 35-30 and the Cowboys lose it, I'm not going to mind it a whole lot. I'm going to be upset at the loss itself, but I don't know that I will be very upset about it because we might be in for one of the best football games of the season. Now, we've been here before. We've said that before, and sometimes the NFL just punches you in the mouth and gives you a terrible ass game, but let's hope that is not the case. So tonight, what I wanted to do is get into this whole matchup and talk about some matchups within the matchup, right? We know about Dak Prescott being awesome. We know about Josh Allen also being awesome, but there are a handful. I've got 5 jotted out in my notebook, but I think I might come up with more as we go on here on the show. But more or less 5 matchups beyond Josh Allen and Dak Prescott that I really want to get to tonight that I think will go a long way in defining Week 15 for the Dallas Cowboys. Now, before we do any of that, though, let me say hi to the chat. Thank you so much for being here. I am, as always, appreciative of you guys tuning into the show and being here to get into it. Shout out to Toxic Tom. Man, I don't have a funny American accent. This is just, me talking English as best as I can. For those of you who don't know, I'm from Mexico, so Toxic is just having fun in the chat right now. I don't think I would be able to pull off an accent, not gonna lie, like an intentional one. Obviously, I have one, but an intentional one. Shout out to Jay Money. Shout out to Master Gunner, who has a very important message right here on the YouTube chat. He says, I hope that Malik Hooker is okay. We're not going to dive very deep into the injury report today, but man, this is one that is concerning to me. Malik Hooker has missed practice for 2 consecutive days. Friday, they don't do a whole lot of work, so I don't know what to expect from the final injury report, but chances are it won't matter. The one that will matter will be on Saturday if they do practice and we get a report, maybe shedding some light into what his game status is going to be. But Malik Hooker has missed practice for 2 consecutive days. dealing with an injury, shoulder injury. And man, he is important. He is important to this Cowboys defense. You don't hear his name called a lot, right? We don't discuss him every week like we do Micah Parsons, like we do Dayron Bland and Stephon Gilmore and all those guys. But the way that the Cowboys play defense puts a lot of stress on Hooker and what his job is, because he's out there playing center field, right? Single high safety coverage pretty much all the time for Dallas. Not to say that they are unwilling to do two high safety coverages, because they do. It's just mostly the single high looks, cover one, cover three. You guys know about that, of course. But Malik Hooker being out, hypothetically, if it does happen, that is a major blow to the Cowboys defense, because suddenly I would say Dan Quinn would be maybe forced to change up the coverages, especially going into a weekend where you're going to face a quarterback that is very willing to push the ball downfield and is very willing to take those deep shots to really challenge your secondary. So if Malik Hooker cannot go, that is a reason for concern. And that is one of the big things to watch out for on the final injury report. Be on the lookout for that. It would be a very real concern if that ends up happening. On one hand, on the other hand, there are other names to be worried about, maybe a little bit on the injury report. Brandon Cooks, Jalen Tolbert, both missed practice because of an illness. Now, I wouldn't press the panic button on that one. So did Stephon Gilmore, by the way. I wouldn't press the panic button on that one just because, man, I just think, Micah already played with an illness. Most players, I believe, play through illness, especially when it's a flu, and it does sound, based on reporters, that it is the flu. I know Patrick Walker suggested it is on his Twitter account, and I do trust No C a whole lot. So sounds like it's that. I would guess everyone is playing, but the thing is, are you playing at 100%? Because you guys know how tough it is to deal with a flu, especially when it's a serious one. We might not be NFL players, but they're still humans, right? So it would make sense to see them a little bit affected if that is the case. And then Jonathan Hankins, I don't think he's going to go. Mike McCarthy pretty much alluded to him not going on Wednesday when he said he would be hard-pressed to go. So Jonathan Hankins is somebody that I would not be expecting on Sunday. If he does play, man, a pleasant surprise. If he doesn't, something to worry about too, because low-key, the Bills are a top 3 rushing offense. We talk about Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs and Kincaid, and we get excited about their passing offense, but they've also been running it pretty well over the last few weeks and over the entire season, quite honestly. So not having Jonathan Hankins on the run defense is going to hurt. Massey Smith has had some impressive flashes, but he's also had a lot of rookie moments where he's not really locked in many plays, right? And we've seen him get pushed around here and there. We've also seen him really show that power on the playing field. So we might get a mixed bag of results from him. And also expect the Cowboys to elevate somebody this Saturday on the defensive line. Dan Quinn and Mike McCarthy alluded to it as well earlier in the week in press conferences. Quinn specifically mentioned Carl Davis, who the Cowboys signed midseason to the practice squad. Carl Davis is a former New England Patriot who got a cut and then went off on social media accepting that it was his fault. Has around 72 games in his career, so some experience there. And then the other guy to watch out for is perhaps the best name on the entire Cowboys organization, Willington Prevalon. That is a distinguished gentleman right there, for sure. Look at the way he's sitting, right? Like the meme. But Willington Prevalon has yet to make his career debut. Would be pretty fun to watch him play. But yeah, obviously not an ideal situation for the Cowboys, defensively speaking, in terms of health. Now, all that being said, ladies and gentlemen, let's get to the matchups here and let's start talking some Cowboys Bills headed into this weekend. So, matchup number 1, to be looking out for, especially when the Cowboys are on defense. Matchup number one to watch out for. Here we go. James Cook. That is right. Not Stephon Diggs, not anybody else. James Cook against the Cowboys linebackers. I think that is one of the most fun matchups and most important matchups to really get down on this Sunday because, man, they are using their running back very creatively. They are getting him involved in the passing game. Look at this play where the Bills scored, where looks like James Cook is going to run some sort of a check down route, right? Some sort of a choice route, traditional route for a running back. Instead, he just keeps running downfield. Look at him to the left of Josh Allen. They get some motion, and then it looks like he's going to turn there, but he doesn't. He just keeps running straight to the end zone, untouched. That is just one example of how the Bills are utilizing him lately. It's not that he is the lead back who is getting 60% of the snaps. In fact, I don't think he's crossed 50 yet this season, but they are using him as a true playmaker. There is another play where Josh Allen is talking to his offensive lineman. He's like, 32 is the mic. He doesn't say that. He says Ram 32, which is obviously like a pass protection adjustment. And he turns to James Cook and he's like, run a wheel route, right? Because Josh Allen isn't only a guy that has a great arm. He's also pretty damn smart. And he's like, run a wheel route. And boom, finds him for the perfect throw, the perfect catch. And he gets a big gain out of that play too. So what I'm trying to say here is James Cook is perhaps one of the most dynamic playmakers that offense has at this point. Now, we can talk all we want about Stephon Diggs, and we will actually in a few moments. But defenses usually know entering a Bills game that Stephon Diggs is a priority. He's the top guy. So I wanted to start off with who is the next guy that really worries us, and I think it should be James Cook at this point. Marquise Bell, number one linebacker in coverage per Pro Football Focus. Damon Clark also ranks pretty high. We know how athletic they are. They can really just cover sideline to sideline and break fast to the ball. So looking forward to seeing how that works out. But James Cook is going to be a very important challenge for Dallas on Sunday. I think that's the one matchup that I think many people will miss as we approach this important game. But it is the one that really is getting me very excited about the game. So Marquise Bell, Damon Clark, can they get the job done against James Cook? And again, not only in the passing game, which is what we're talking about mostly, but in the running game. Bills have a good rushing offense, believe it or not. They are one of the best 5 rushing offense, at least numerically speaking, when looking at the advanced metrics. And by the way, something that I didn't include, but also pertains to the linebackers a whole lot, is Josh Allen when he decides to not throw the ball and instead tuck it in and run with it, because he likes to do that. And since Ken Dorsey was fired as the Bills offensive coordinator, they're doing much more of that. I was looking at the numbers, and they've basically doubled his attempts per game since they changed offensive coordinators. And I'm going to tell you, especially when they are in enemy territory, and this is just me anecdotally speaking, Josh Allen will be involved in that rushing offense as well. He's going to be willing, very willing to tuck it in and go. So the linebackers are going to have a lot on their plates. They're going to be worrying about, obviously, James Cook. They might be worrying about the tight ends here and there. I know Jaron Kearse does a lot of tight end work for the Cowboys defense, but at some point, the linebackers are also going to be dealing with the tight ends. And now that Dawson Knox is back for the Bills, you are working with that 2 tight end set with the Bills, including Dalton Kincaid. So that is going to be interesting to watch. And they also are going to be worried about Josh Allen potentially running the ball. So a lot on the linebackers' plates this week, and I'm excited about seeing how it plays out. One thing that I like for them that gets me excited about their prospects of succeeding in those assignments is that it is a favorable matchup in the sense that it's not the Niners just being nasty and physical and out playing you in that way, like out punching you in the mouth every single play. The Bills are more like athletic. They're going to work in space and they're going to try to do some stuff, again, in space. I don't know that they're going to try to be more physical than you, like the Niners will and the Eagles will. So maybe something that is a good omen for Dallas, in my opinion. Let's see what you guys have to say, though, very quickly in the chat. Toxic says James Cook has been hitting up. He really has been. And you look at the snap counts, and it's not a huge difference, right? It's not even that he's playing much more. He's just being a weapon when he's on the offensive field. So something to watch out for sure. Let's see here. A lot of Bill fans, says below the heavens, are counting on weather. And I love that comment because I don't think the weather, it's going to be a factor. It is going to be a factor, but it might not feel like Buffalo Bills weather because snow is not projected. Rain is projected in the morning, not on game time. And the wind, yes, there's going to be wind, but I don't believe I've seen anywhere like it's going to be a 25 miles per hour wind or something like that. So I wouldn't expect a huge impact in any of these teams' passing games, honestly. Peter Rizzo says, I would like to see Dono spy Josh Allen. And Peter, you might be onto something there, but hey, it might be. This is where I'm at right now. I think it's tough to spy Josh Allen when you are a team that likes to blitz and you are a team that likes to play man coverage and you're a team that likes to play one high coverages. So I'm very intrigued as to whether or not they would want to spy Josh Allen, right? But it does matter when we're talking about dealing with that. If your players are playing man coverage, then the quarterback is going to have a field day running the football. So one of those games where, again, I am wondering days before it, if Dan Quinn is going to change up how he approaches it, or if he's going to be like, nah, screw it. I'm just going to do what I've been doing all season long, and I'm just going to hope that it works out. And hey, it has worked out up to this point. They didn't listen to Nick Bosa's advice entering the Philadelphia Eagles rematch, and that worked out perfectly for them. Perfectly might not be the word. I apologize. The Eagles did have 6 yards per play on average, which is a very good mark. The Cowboys did have 3 turnovers, though, which was the difference maker. By the way, this is not the topic of the show, but did you guys see the Eagles? Did you guys see the Eagles practicing going to the ground and while coaches use like long sticks to punch the football in week 15 of the regular season? They had Jalen Hurts intentionally going to the ground with his knees hitting the floor every rep. Did you guys see that? Nick Sirianni thinks he's some Friday Night Light stuff right there. I was a little bit, Cowboys kind of broke the Eagles for a second there. You can see in one of the clips that Jalen Hurts looks to the camera and he shakes his head like, what the heck are we doing in practice right now? Why are we practicing this? Why are we not, implementing motion or something to the offense? Let's see here. Cam says, Mo seems scared. Have some faith, Mo. Oh, I'm not scared. I'm just excited about the game. Last week, I was like, man, I think the Cowboys really get it against the Eagles. It's gonna be not easy, but yeah, they're not scary. But I am excited about the game because it's a very good matchup. And yes, the Cowboys will be tested. So that's going to be fun. Now, matchup number two that we're going to get into here. Let's make it happen. Yeah, here we go. Stephon Diggs. Obviously, might have been number one, right? But Stephon Diggs and I'm starting by the Cowboys defense, by the way, so I'm gonna wait on the offensive stuff. But how are they gonna match up against Stephon Diggs? I think is gonna be huge. There are a lot of teams, and the Chiefs are a good example, right? And the most recent one. So maybe the video that we reviewed the most, at least in my case, it was there's a lot of plays where there's some sort of double coverage, brackets coverage on Diggs, where the Chiefs are making sure that they have inside and outside leverage on him. And I'm not sure that the Cowboys are a team that does a lot of brackets coverage, but after seeing Stephon Gilmore shadow AJ Brown and be successful at it, because there are some numbers that make it seem like he wasn't successful. He allowed a lot of yards, a lot of catches, but all that was underneath stuff. It wasn't like Jalen Hurts dropping back to pass and going yard with the ball. It wasn't that with AJ Brown and Stephon Gilmore. Gilmore took that away. And we saw Gilmore switch to, DK Metcalf and travel with him in the Seahawks game. And I am very intrigued about what Dan Quinn considered having Stephon Gilmore travel with Stephon Diggs. And that's a guy that he's familiar with. He's faced him before, has had some moments against Mr. Diggs right there. So Diggs is one of the best wide receivers in the NFL. People like to make a big deal out of his altercations on the sideline and all that and all of those moments, but still one of the best players on the wide receiver position across the entire NFL. So I'm just wondering about that. If there's one thing that I would note, though, is that the Cowboys faced AJ Brown and Devonta Smith twice this season, and they've been able to have them be limited. So I'm not sure that I could say that I'm scared about this Stephon Diggs matchup, but I do believe there's going to be some back and forth on that one. I expect Stephon Diggs to make some plays just because he's got my respect on that end. But how Dallas approaches Stephon Diggs is key because I see it as one of two ways. Either the Bills are going to be efficient anyway, in my opinion. And hopefully I'm proving wrong and the Cowboys just blow out the Bills come Sunday. But I do think they're going to move the ball pretty efficiently. But when they move the ball through Stephon Diggs in a game where the guy has 10 catches for 100 and something yards, everything looks extremely easy for the Bills. But if you're taking him away, you're probably forcing Josh Allen to work his magic and be breaking out of the pocket and be doing this and be doing that. But most of the time, you see Stephon Diggs still be the number one read for Josh Allen time and time and time again. But if you're taking him away, you're forcing him to go to Kincaid. You're forcing him to go to James Cook. You're forcing him to scramble. And that's where the turnover opportunities will likely be coming for Dallas. So excited about that. Very excited about that. And one more matchup, man. One more matchup for the defense before we go to the offense here. Let's get it.
Yeah, here we go.
Osa Odigizua against right guard Osiris Torrance. And pretty much Mitch Morse as well and Connor McGovern, who is their left guard. All of that interior offensive line, I think, can be got. And the Bills surprisingly rank number one in Pass Pro if you merge Sports Info Solutions and PFF and ESPN data. So in Ben Baldwin's composite rankings, they're the number one offensive line in Pass Pro. I'm kind of surprised at that. Dion Dawkins and Spencer Brown, the tackles, are doing a good job. They're going to be challenged because you can get the best tackle in the NFL, and he's still going to be challenged by Micah Parsons, whether he is sick or not, whether he's banged up or not. Micah is going to be Micah, and he's really that good where it doesn't really matter who is lining up across from him. He's going to make some plays. But I do believe, man, that interior offensive line can be attacked by the Cowboys. And the numbers are a little bit iffy. I don't think they rank, below average in any category. But right guard is one of the spots where he's allowed the second most pressures on the team. and Osa is playing at such an insane level. But we talked about this yesterday. Chris Jones had 7 pressures against the Bills last week. I think it's one of those games where you could see Osa have some big time plays, especially if Dallas does a good job containing Josh Allen and keeping him in the pocket. So, gonna be a very fun one to see for sure. Ozo Digisuwa versus Terrence Steele and Torrance, Osiris Torrance, and all of them. Osiris Torrance, and all of them. It's gonna be huge. So those are my top matchups for the Cowboys defense. Now I'm gonna read some of your comments, but I'm also gonna ask you, what is the one thing, or who is the one player that you're looking out for on the Cowboys offense on Sunday? Let me know what you think about that. Who is the one player that to you is the key to winning on Sunday? Let's see what you guys have to say in the chat. Ahmad says this Sunday, the Bills will be like it's the Super Bowl. The Bills will have their best game all year, says Ahmad C. And hey, maybe if we want to buy into the storyline that everyone wants to be the Cowboys as if it were the 90s and all that, maybe. But also, and mostly, I will say, the Bills are in desperate mode. They're in desperate mode every single week because they have a shot at making the playoffs. And you could even say they have a shot at winning the AFC East if the Dolphins start really falling off. But they are a team that could be in the playoffs. And if they make the playoffs, guys, this team could go crazy in it. I think it's one of those teams that if they make it as a wildcard team, they could be like a dark horse Super Bowl type candidate, just like the Cowboys in a much different sense. But yeah, I think the Bills could be in that conversation. Again, I say much different sense because the Cowboys are 10-3, and it should matter. That difference should matter. So they're going to be desperate. The Cowboys are going to face a desperate team for sure. Ladies and gentlemen, let's see some of your answers here. Gregory says Ferguson. Peter Rizzo says Pollard. Asmodeus hits us with Brandon Cooks. Love it. Toxic says Ferg is the word. Man, Fergie is so fun. Los Altos says Tyler Viadish. Los Altos, yeah. Bruce says Fergie. And Parsons is Katharina, talking about the defensive side there. Noé says 50% or 50s, 50 degrees is perfect weather for football. Not bad at all. Man, it really is. It's expected that around somewhere in there, no precipitation of any kind. So sure looks like it's going to be a good weather. I was telling you, man, the other day I was checking the weather and I was like, wait, that's more or less what I'm living right now in Chihuahua, Mexico. And I didn't mind the weather at all. So still, Jake Ferguson, by the way, is putting his hands into a bucket with ice in it. And then that picture going viral of the Cowboys basically putting pictures of Bills players on their drills as they go through them. So Jake Ferguson is on fire right now. Jake Ferguson is a good answer there. Jake Ferguson really is. And in fact, one of my players in my notebook is Jake Ferguson, specifically against Jordan Poyer, specifically against Tyrell Dodson, because you're talking about Dodson being a top 10 linebacker in coverage per PFF. And I know that PFF is subjective. I always say this, but you look at the numbers and everything adds up. You look at the film, and Dodson has been having an amazing year. And actually, one of the reasons why the Bills are improving on defense is Dodson himself. As soon as Matt Milano went down for the season earlier in the year, we were like, oh man, the Bills have no linebackers. But then Tyler Dodson really started playing very good football, and that's been a difference maker for them. So I just think about Dodson, and I think about Jordan Poyer playing defense, and I'm very excited about seeing how Jake Ferguson does, and if he gets to catch that weekly seam throw that Dak Prescott likes to throw, right over the seams, a go route through the middle of the field, splitting the safeties. Dak is the master at the NFL in doing that. And I think watching it happen against this caliber of opponents is going to be fun. And it's going to be a good matchup for Dallas. So Jake Ferguson is key in that area for sure. And it's also one of those things where it's going to be a scrappy game. It's going to be one of those where you're going to face some third downs. You're going to need to dig deep maybe in the second half. And I think Ferguson could really step up there for Dallas, especially if the Bills are focusing on taking CD away. Just a fun game overall. And I think Jake Ferguson is going to be huge moving forward, basically. Ladies and gentlemen, that being said, I do have one more matchup to get into. And it's a similar matchup to the one that we discussed last week and that we discussed earlier in the week when recapping the Eagles game. But to me, an additional matchup to worry about is
Here we go.
Terrence Steele versus Leonard Floyd, Gregory Rousseau, and Von Miller. Here's what I mean. Not only Von Miller, not only Terrence Steele, but just the overall pass protection plan on this one. I talked about yesterday how I didn't think that the Bills pass rush was something to fear. And I still believe that. But I do think that they do have some good edge rushers. Like Von Miller has been improving, has not been anything close to the Von Miller of old. But they do have Gregory Rousseau. They do have Leonard Floyd. They could have them rotating over on the right side of the offense. And it could spell some trouble, if we're being honest, because Steele is still the guy you want to go to if you are a defense attacking the Cowboys. At least that is my opinion. That is the one guy that you would want to isolate as much as you can. But on the Philly game from last weekend that the Cowboys won at home, it seemed to me that the Cowboys had just a perfect answer after a perfect answer after a perfect answer. They got Jalen Tolbert involved. They got Tony Pollard involved, but also Rico Dowdle and also Jake Ferguson. And the Cowboys seem to have like this huge toolbox to deal with a mismatch up front that at this point, I'm not panicking about a potential mismatch with Terrence Steele. I don't think a mismatch exists on the other side of the offensive line because I think you can leave Tyron Smith on an island. As long as he's healthy, he's going to take care of business on the left side of the offensive line and the offense. But, man, I think that just having some help for Terrence Steele on this one is also going to be important. Maybe they don't have a Hassan Reddick in there, but it's going to be one of those where, hey, I'm okay with the Cowboys sending help their way and their way and their way. His way, excuse me, like Terrence Steele's way, every chance that they get. That's going to be fun. That's going to be fun to see. All that being said, ladies and gentlemen, it is time for us to get into the prediction. So let me know in the chat, who do you got? Who do you have winning this game? And I'll give you my Cowboys bet of the game. So that could be anyone on this game. It could be the Bills minus 2.5. Let me see the numbers actually, so I don't cheat, because I didn't actually look at the official numbers. I wasn't able to put some graphics together for this one. So let me know in the chat who you got. What is your scoreboard for the bet this week? I could go with either Cowboys or Bills. The spread is at 2. So Cowboys +2 or Buffalo -2. And then the over-under sits at 50.5. It's a tough one to pick. I'm not going to lie. It is a very tough one to pick. I've got the Cowboys winning the game. Spoiler alert. I've got the Cowboys winning the game. And I do believe Dallas will take care of business on the road, essentially because of what we talked about today, but also what we talked about last night, where I am at the point with the Cowboys offense that I'm not betting on any defense slowing them down unless they've got an elite defensive line like the Niners do over in San Francisco. But these Bills pass rush, they're decent. I don't think they are much more than decent. And I do believe the Cowboys have what it takes to pick apart the Bills secondary. I don't believe the weather will be that much of a factor. Toxic says, Mo, I stayed away from this one again. Dallas either gets a massive win or where it spreads lately. And because of that same reason, I did stay away from the spread. I'm not making a spread pick today. I am going with the over 50.5, maybe an inflated number. I admit it might be an inflated number, but I do believe the Bills are going to move the ball. I do believe the Cowboys are going to do that as well. And while Dallas has somewhat taken it easy, if you look at the numbers for pace, when they need tempo, they do want to run tempo as well. So, man, I just think this is going to be a high scoring one. I am going with a 33-30 scoreboard. I think it's a shootout, and I think it's going to be a fun one at that. Hopefully I'm right, because I would enjoy watching something like that. And I would enjoy watching the Cowboys get that close win on the road. Watching Dak Prescott, like in the Seattle game where he had the comeback drive and all that. I would enjoy that sort of football game. So give me the Cowboys, give me the over, and I will see you guys on Sunday, hopefully, to discuss a win. But in the meantime, though, some of your scoreboards here. Justin with the 35-0. Gregory with the 38-20. Whoa, 43-17 for Carlos. There are some people expecting a blowout on this one, and I'm surprised at that. Not gonna lie. 32-24 for Peter Rizzo. Justin says how Cowboys have to win by 7 minimum. Katharina with the 28-17. 40-20 for Noe. Jimmy goes 27-21. I have not seen a Bill scoreboard yet. 40-17 for Asmodeus. Ladies and gentlemen, give me the Cowboys. But give me the over for my betting the Cowboys pick. We are, man, what are we? I think we're the same as Dallas. I think we're 10-3 at this point this year, betting these games. So excited about keeping that streak going. And I will see you guys on Sunday night. Take care. And I will talk to you on Sunday. Bye-bye.